In this video, we'll be going over demonstrative adjectives. So let's first start with what a demonstrative adjective is. A demonstrative adjective is essentially an adjective that will be paired with a noun in order to demonstrate to someone what noun you're talking about. So, in simpler terms, it's basically if I said this water bottle, this would be the demonstrative adjective because I am showing someone this water bottle. The this is implying that I am demonstrating the water bottle. So in English, it's pretty simple. It looks like this. This, these, that, and those. We only have 4 in English. Now in Spanish it's a little different. They have 12. It works a little bit differently. However, I just want to say that it's not actually that difficult as long as you kind of understand the ideas behind them. So let's first start with a phrase that is going to be key in remembering these, which is that this and these both have T's, that and those don't. And so if you look at all of these right here, you can see this and these are having T's, and that and those are not going to have any T's in them. Now, let's start up here with how to say this and these in Spanish. A lot of times they're paired with this word right here, aquí, which means here. So for example, if I were to say this water bottle here, you'd hear the phrase aquí, esta botella de agua aquí. And so a lot of times we're going to see this word used with this and these in Spanish. Now first, let's go over how to say this. There's 2 different ways to say it. It's este or esta. Now the reason why there's 2 different ways is because we're dealing with adjectives here, which means that we have to have multiple forms of it. We have to have the masculine singular, masculine plural, and feminine plural. Versus in English, we only have the singular and the plural. This versus these. These ones are also going to be gendered. So it depends on what exact gender we're talking about when it comes to the noun. So if I was using a masculine noun, I would use este. Versus if I was using a feminine noun, referring to a feminine noun, we would use esta. And one thing to note as well is that we would expect this to be esto, but it's actually este. So just remember that this one ends in an E, and we'll go over the gender neutral one soon, which is esto. It's a little backwards in Spanish. The masculine singular version for each one is a little weird, but if you just remember that este is going to be the masculine singular, you should be good. So, for example, let's take 2 different nouns. We'll say bolígrafo and mesa. Bolígrafo, meaning pen, is a masculine noun. It ends in an O. So in this case, we'd have to use este. If we were to say this pen, we could not say esta bolígrafo. We'd have to say este bolígrafo. Versus if we were to take the word mesa, esta mesa, you can see that in this case, since it's feminine, we'll be using esta. So this is going to be the masculine version, and this is going to be the feminine version. Now, following the same logic with the these, estos and estas, it's going to be these for masculine, and these for feminine. So you can see in this case, basically what we could do here, we could just copy and paste this right here, este bolígrafo. If we were to make it plural, like these pens, talking about multiple, you'd have to say estos bolígrafos, and then estas mesas. Now, one more thing to note is the fact that estas, there's another different way. It means another thing if you say it with an accent. If you say estás, that means you are. And so be careful with this. It's pronounced estas, not estás. If you say estás, that's going to mean you are, like como estás. But in this case, it's going to be estas with no accent. So that is this and these in Spanish. Now let's get into that and those. Commonly used with these 2 words, allí. And you can see it's written in 2 different ways. Both are pronounced as allí. Can also be used with allá, which we'll go over in a sec, which they all mean there. Allá implies that it's a little further, but it kind of depends on the country you're in. For example, when I lived in Colombia, a lot of times I just used the word allá for pretty much everything. But yeah. So getting into it, following kind of the exact same logic, this is going to be that, masculine. So if I were to say that pen, I would say ese bolígrafo. And then there's going to be that, feminine. So I'd say esa bolígrafo. Or sorry, esa mesa. and then those, masculine. So estos bolígrafos. And finally, those, feminine. So estas mesas. So it all depends on the noun that you're talking about. Basically, if it's a masculine noun, it's going to have to be with the masculine terms, right? So it can only be este, estos, ese, or esos, versus if it's a feminine, it has to be esta, estas, esa, and esas. And so you can see that these are all grouped together because these are demonstrating something that is further away from you versus these are going to demonstrate something that is close to you. There's 4 different versions, one for each gender and one for each number. So it's like singular or plural. Now, getting down into here, that and those way over there. It's interesting because they have actually a demonstrative adjective to show something that is very far from you. In English, we don't have that. We just say that or those way over there. You can see it's essentially the same, but it's implying with these that it's really far in the distance. So, if I were to say aquel, that will mean that way over there. You can see we can also use the word allá with it. That means over there, like way over there, very, very far. This is going to be the masculine version right here, and that way over there. It's going to be the feminine version. And then same with these. These are just going to be those because we're talking about plural version, right? And you can see masculine up on the top, akeos and akeas. We got akel, akea, akeos, and akeas. Now, one thing I did want to go over as well is the gender neutral terms, esto, eso, and akeo. It's very weird because these seem like these should be the masculine forms, but for some reason they decided that these are going to be the gender neutral terms. And the ones like este, which seems like they should be the gender neutral, are going to be the masculine ones. So este, ese, and aquel are the masculine singular ones. And so what do I mean by gender neutral when I say that? Well, it basically is used for kind of 2 things. One, when we don't know the gender of the object in reference, and 2, when there is no object in reference. So let's talk about the first one. Let's say that if I saw a random contraption, like robot sort of thing, I have no idea what it is. I say, what is that? What is that? In this case, we'd say, ¿qué es eso? It's going to be this, that, and that over there. So I say, ¿qué es eso? ¿Qué es eso? So in this case, it'd be like, what is that? And I'm referencing something that I don't know the gender of. I've never seen this thing before because that we don't know what the gender is. And so that's when I would use the gender neutral, or also when there is no object in reference. So for example, if let's say I walk into a room and there's pandemonium going on, I'm like, what is this? What is this? ¿Qué es esto? I'm not referring to something here, and because of that, we have to use the gender neutral term. So as far as these go, these are known as gender neutral because there either is no object in reference or we do not know the gender of the object that we're talking about. And so overall, that's demonstrative adjectives right there. It's pretty simple. You just have to think about, okay, is this thing close to me? In that case, I'd use this and these. Is it far from me? I'd use that and those. Or is it really far from me? I'd use that and those way over there, like the aquel, akea, akeos, and akeas. And then also line it up with the number and the gender of what is getting talked about. So overall, demonstrative adjectives function very similar to pretty much any other type of adjective in Spanish. You just have to kind of think about, okay, which one am I going to use? And this phrase right here, this and these both have T's, that and those don't, can be very useful for remembering which one you're going to use. So that's the video. Thanks. See you in the next one.